This Week in Richmond is made possible in part by Dignity Memorial, caring for our communities with a network of funeral homes and cemeteries in Virginia and throughout North America. More information about Dignity Memorial's providers is online at dignitymemorial.com. The Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the voice of the Virginia business community, working in legislative, regulatory, and political arenas to promote the free enterprise system. Information at vachamber.com. Virginia hospitals and health systems provide jobs. They support our economy and promote public health. Local hospitals are always open to help people with unexpected health needs. Having a stable healthcare network is vital. Virginia hospitals are our lifeline.
It's amazing what my students with special needs can accomplish. Their pride is priceless. That's why I teach.
Brought to you by the Virginia Education Association, because a good education is good for everybody.
Additional support is provided by these sponsors. And by the members of Virginia's public television stations. Thank you.
Welcome to This Week in Richmond, and a special welcome to Secretary of Agriculture and Forestry, Todd Haymore, and member of the House of Delegates, Bobby Orrock. And there's a lot of connections between the two of you, and those are probably going to come out in our show, in our discussion, but appreciate you both being on. And Mr. Secretary, why don't you start us, and then Bobby, you jump in at any times, and we'll get to your legislation.
Is that legal to go before an honorable member of the House of Delegates?
You get paid a lot more.
Oh,
Sure.
okay.
He's part-time.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Just this one.
Teaches agriculture, but
That's
part-time.
right.
But part-time here.
He's forgotten more about agriculture than I'll probably ever know.
Definitely on the first part. I don't know about the
That's
latter,
right.
but anyway.
So we're off to a really great session, David. Thanks again for having me. It's always
Yes.
a pleasure. Working really hard with Delegate Orrock and his colleagues in the House and the Senate. We've got some bills going through that staff at the Department of Agriculture and Department of Forestry are working on very diligently, my staff and the Secretariat. I've been really focused on budget amendments. The governor's put together a package that's very aggressive. In fact, it's the largest budget package ever for the Secretariat, very much dedicated to promoting agriculture and forestry development here in Virginia, but also exporting more of our products into the global marketplace. So been exciting 3 weeks now, and got a little bit more to go, but a lot of work going on and a lot of fun, always spending time with the members of the House and the Senate, and hopefully when everything is said and done, we'll have a really nice budget package for agriculture and forestry to help continue growing in the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Bobby, why don't we stay on the agriculture subject for just a moment? Serving on the Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources Committee, but Chair of Health, Welfare, and Institutions, but stay on agriculture just a minute.
Sure. Well, and I'm actually the longest serving member on the Ag Committee right now, because I've been on there ever since I got elected, except for 1 year, and there's a whole story behind that. But anyway, and then being an agriculture teacher in my real life, growing up on a dairy farm, and I'm going to say, and he's not paying me to say this, but Todd really has been an excellent Secretary of Agriculture, looking out for the economic interests in particular of the entire agriculture industry. This year, again, we had a number of bills in the Ag Committee that are kind of targeted more towards certain segments, and there's some legitimate reasons those folks want to be able to expand the products they can directly sell. And we sometimes get into these conflicts, as I see them, within the family between the larger entities. Sometimes they want to call them factory farms, but in Virginia, over 90% of them are still family-owned. And so we're just talking a larger family farm compared to some of the smaller farms. And how do we craft public policy to make sure that both can remain viable and do things that won't be at the expense of one over the other? And that's the challenge we've been dealing with, and Secretary Haymore's been excellent in that regard, trying to bring that proper balance. And this year, I think here again, it was a circumstance where probably both sides are somewhat unhappy over some of the measures that we've effected so far. We're not even to halftime in the game, as it were. And so we'll see what the Senate may be sending us here in another week or two. But just in the whole agriculture, and it is the largest segment of the Virginia economy. And so it is critical that we ensure that it remains viable and that we don't affect public policies that will be a detriment to that, any part of that industry.
You know, that largest part of the economy, and pick up notices all the time that it seems like wherever the governor goes out of the country, you're with him.
Yeah. Nice Secretary of Agriculture in the making right here. He knows the numbers better than I do. Bobby, thank you for the kind words too. Yeah, we're going all around the world. Gosh, and I think Governor McAuliffe might be the most traveled governor in a 2-year window of a term than anyone in history. We've been to Asia twice, Europe twice. We were just in Cuba a few weeks ago. We were in Kuwait, UAE, Oman, India, back right before Christmas time. And it's started under Governor McDonnell when integrating agriculture and forestry into the overall economic development schemes and initiatives of the state. So now when the governor goes into the global marketplace, be it further into Virginia, across the country, or around the world, we're right there working with our partners at VEDP, working with our partners at the Tourism Corporation, and also with the port. And it's a really good team, and I think we're affecting positive outcomes for the Commonwealth working with our private sector partners.
Now, you've both been working in agriculture in different capacities, on farms growing up, and
Yep.
the amount of exports has really grown astronomically.
Really proud of that. Governor McDonnell launched the export initiative in 2010. Governor McAuliffe is building on it. We've seen exports grow about 49% since 2010 until 2014. We'll come out with the new numbers next month. And we've gone from about $2.14 billion in exports in 2010 to $3.35 billion. That's moved us from 5th place on the East Coast to 2nd on the East Coast. And Governor McAuliffe said in his first State of the Commonwealth address that he wanted to move Virginia to #1 on the East Coast. So we were 3rd when he started, and we've moved to 2nd. We've got Georgia in our sights. It's going to be tough, but we're really working hard. And again, we'll announce the new export figures in early March, so hopefully we'll keep moving forward.
Now, you've told me before, and told our viewers before, but what are some of the top crops, or forestry, or wine, or what are the top ones that are being exported?
Exported, soybeans are little nuggets of gold right now. I wish we could get the commodity prices up. That's really impacting not only export value, but also farmers' income. But we are very diversified. All of our row crops, tobacco, lumber, seafood, wine, all going into the global marketplace and making up that $3.35 billion figure that we had in 2014, again, 2nd on the East Coast. So very diversified, and that's one of the great things about the Virginia agricultural economy, from the farm sector all the way through to value add, is how diversified it is. Our 4 seasons, the different topographies we have in the state are allowing us to produce high quality crops from Virginia Beach all the way through to the mountains in Southwest Virginia. And again, everything from apples to zucchini, as my grandfather used to say growing up, and throw the timber, wood products in. Very diversified, very powerful part of our economy.
Bobby, in your time teaching agriculture, and Virginia Tech graduate, and a master's in Virginia State, I'm sure you've seen lots of changes. When I see the FFA groups here around Capitol Square, it reminds me of how much my FFA jacket from Appomattox High School has shrunk over the years.
I can appreciate that.
It was a much larger jacket back when I was in the 8th grade.
Funny that, yeah.
But how has the teaching of agriculture in that area changed?
It's changed dramatically. I'm in my 38th year of teaching. I teach at Spotsylvania High School. I've been there 33 years. And when I started teaching, we were largely teaching farming. It has evolved over the years. We're really just an applied science. And we focus on career pathways now, and students elect to go into, say, a plant science pathway. And that's one of the segments that I teach. And from that program, in the first year that I teach it, students can then go into greenhouse and other plant science pathways, or animal science, and similarly, we've got small animal care, pre-vet. The dynamic has changed because it used to be a rural program in Spotsylvania County where I teach. We've got 5 high schools. When I started teaching, there were 25,000 population for the whole county. Now we're over 135,000, but all 5 high schools still have the agricultural program because we're teaching life sciences through the model and through the biologies that students are exposed to in the agriculture model, and then they get the practical skills that go along with that. As an example, with my plant science classes, we started out the year in forestry. We did tree identification, how trees grow, how they propagate, things of that nature, or the properties of the wood, and then we go in the shop and we make a woodworking project. So they get some hands-on experience and appreciation for the different types of woods, the characteristics, things of that nature. And that's how the program is modeled throughout the whole year, whatever area of the curriculum we're in.
So quite a change that you've seen, a lifetime of changes.
But still have the FFA as the leadership component of the organization, because students, no matter where they live, from a farm subdivision to the city, we need to develop their leadership potential so that their talents can best be utilized within their community, within their family, within our whole society.
Todd, what are some of the biggest challenges that are being faced in your secretariat and in agriculture and forestry around the Commonwealth?
I mentioned one earlier. Depressed commodity prices are really impacting our growers, and the money that's goes into their back pocket that typically farmers are reinvesting in their operations and hopefully expanding. I'm reminded of my grandfather was sort of pushing me off the farm. He talked about you didn't want to be relying on Mother Nature to make a living, but that is one thing right here in the Commonwealth that we face. Also, there's always issues with federal regulations that impact growers' operations, and I think we're doing a good job of working with our friends in Washington, D.C. to be sure we're not putting onerous burdens on our farmers, because they are last on the chain as it relates to, they don't have anybody to pass their cost on to, and everything that you do to them as a burden or regulation or over-regulation, they don't have anybody to turn to pass along the cost. They have to absorb it. So that's something. And in the global marketplace, we always have protectionist bans, and there's geopolitical issues that cause our products to be very highly valued export commodities one moment, and the next moment you're cut off completely. So combination of a number of different things that always impact, but I'm always reminded of Mother Nature and how that impacts things on a day-to-day basis, and then global commodity prices impacting the bottom line each and every year. So a lot of things going on, but I think on the whole, 2015 was a good year for Virginia Agriculture and Forestry, and we're going to be working with the Weldon Cooper Center here in 2016 and 2017 to update our economic impact study, and hopefully we'll have an even better snapshot about where we stand in ag and forestry here in the next year or so.
I think the last time we talked, hemp was something coming on, and some legislation was enacted in 2015. Is that moving along as a potential crop?
It is moving along. We're just having to sort of work in balance with what the federal government will allow, but last year Delegate Yost led an effort in the House and made it through, basically allowing the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services to work with Virginia Tech, Virginia State, and JMU on research of hemp production in Virginia. So that's taking place at the AREX that Tech and VSU work with, and then JMU is working with some private sector farmers. And that research is ongoing, and I think we're taking those baby steps. Again, the federal government is going to have the say at the end of the day about when we can move from research and education to commercialization. But we know hemp can grow in Virginia. It was produced here, high volumes back in the early 1900s, I think all the way up to the 20s and the 30s. So we know it'll grow here. It's just a matter of where and when the federal government will allow us to really kick it into a higher gear.
And David, we've had legislation this session already. Delegate Pogge has legislation in that will posture us at such junctures the federal government might make the commercial growing of it legal. The Department of Agriculture will be in a posture to immediately start issuing permits for that end. Nothing happens till the feds give their okay. So folks don't have to worry about us legalizing it before then. But once it happens, it's putting Virginia's farmers in a posture to immediately take advantage of that as an alternative crop.
It's a great point, because I think we are getting credit in Virginia as moving in a very thoughtful and deliberate manner. There have been some states that have maybe gotten a little ahead of themselves, and you raise expectations on the farm level. And I've talked to other secretaries and commissioners about making sure that we're going about it the right way. And I think that Bobby's right. We are doing everything in a manner that puts us ready to go when the feds pull the trigger, blow the whistle, whatever, and allow us to move forward. I'm hoping that a number of farmers across the state, not just in Southside and the old tobacco region and Southwest that's gotten a lot of attention, but farmers across the state will be able to take advantage of it.
Excellent. Bobby, before our time's out, you're dealing with some other legislation, not only as chair of a committee, but some of your own bills. What are
Well, I've
you-
got several bills in the Agriculture Committee this session, primarily dealing in the area of companion animal care. It seems I've always been in that arena. It's an interesting topic area because you get very emotional individuals who don't
sure.
always understand the legislative process. But in particular this year we're trying to facilitate a means whereby private animal shelters, we can establish greater accountability on how they handle their animals, and we're trying to effect a regulatory process so that all the stakeholders can have a say on that, weigh in, and come up with an effective policy to humanely treat animals that they take into their shelters. Also trying to establish an advisory committee within the the Department of Agriculture under the state veterinarian, so that those interests will have a venue to express their concerns and things of that nature. In the health field, I'm carrying a few pieces of legislation trying to make access to mobile dental clinics easier, more available, serving underserved populations of our state and nursing home community, and then other measures in health and agriculture for greater efficiencies where reports have become inefficient, duplicative. Let's do away with them and just try and make government a little more efficient.
Well, I really appreciate both of you being on This Week in Richmond, and I hope that when you're here for JLARC sometime in the summer, and at some time when you're in Richmond and not on the road, we can have each of you back and do a full show and talk about the issues in agriculture and forestry, and talk about all the different things that will at that time be going on prior to the 2017 session. So.
Be here before you know it.
It will. It will.
So again, thank you both for today.
Thank
you
you,
for the
David.
opportunity.
It's always great to be with
Pleasure.
Delighted to welcome Delegate Brenda Pogge. Great that you could be on This Week in Richmond. We won't take all of your time to talk about it, but people should know that you represent a unique district, the 96, that has only been represented by women in its history. Now, some will have to try to figure that out. We'll leave them to maybe figure that out. But you're the fourth woman in that House seat, and it's only been represented by women. But let's talk about some of the legislation. And the guest just before you kind of teed up one of the issues, and you might want to say more about your bill pertaining to hemp.
Okay, I'm happy to. That is actually my favorite bill this year. Very excited to be involved with it. I co-patroned the bill last year, and last year I think it was kind of a new concept, and it was really, it had some controversies, but I think they were just in perception. And so it paved the way really for this year's bill. Last year, industrial hemp was legalized to grow in Virginia, and you may have talked about this, for research purposes.
Right.
This year, the bill that is going through the General Assembly now, my bill on the House side and Senator Chafin's on the Senate side, will literally open up the production of hemp for commercial purposes. And there's a huge commercial potential. I don't know if y'all spoke about that earlier, but the potential is enormous. I think there is 25,000 identified uses for commercial hemp, industrial hemp now. And they range from concrete being made out of hemp.
That's amazing.
That
Yes.
is, and not only is it as strong as concrete, but it is lightweight. And that's the beauty of it. And they're already using hemp in the creation of plastics that are much stronger than petroleum plastics and are being used already in automobile manufacturing because they're lightweight but strong. And so they have the benefit of reducing or increasing miles per gallon. But another thing that you can do with hemp, and we've known this for hundreds of years, is to create paper out of hemp. And 1 acre of hemp will create the equivalent of 4 acres of trees. and that's amazing. Not only that, but it can be reproduced. You can grow an acre of hemp twice a year.
That's quite exciting, and I think that as Secretary Haymore was saying, that up until the 1920s or 30s, that there was hemp grown in Virginia and many other states, and then through changes and connections that some made with marijuana, that it stopped. But there's a big difference in industrial hemp, and
Yes.
so delighted to see that would be coming back.
Did he mention that if you grow industrial hemp close to, next to marijuana, that through cross-pollination, the industrial hemp will render the marijuana neutral?
He did not, so that would help law enforcement.
That makes me happy.
Law enforcement, if more hemp gets to be grown.
That's right, and that's why in this bill, people who have grown hemp have to have a permit, and so they can be identified by law enforcement if they see a field that they recognize, because it is fairly identical, that they will know that that person has a hemp permit, and so
Yes.
it is not marijuana.
Yes. Well, in addition to that bill this year, you now are the vice chair for the Education Committee.
Yes.
Serve on health, welfare, and institutions. What are some other issues that either that you're working on or that your colleagues are working on that you'd like to mention?
Well, we are working on education reforms, and we're looking at SOLs very closely. We've made some changes last year and some reforms, but there are more still to come. And got a couple more meetings this year still, and a lot of bills came through that committee, over 100. I think it was close to 120. So we're looking at SOL reforms, SOQ reforms, and those are going to be some big things that are coming through. And very newsworthy, yesterday in Health, Welfare, and Institutions, we did pass out to the House floor some certificate of public need reforms. So we'll see what happens, but we have started the conversation in that on that issue.
By the time our viewers are seeing the show, those bills probably in some form will leave the House floor and go to the Senate, and then even after this show is seen, you will be dealing, no doubt, with the Senate bill that will be coming over on that same subject. So
That's right.
It's kind of a work in progress.
It is a work in progress, and everybody who was working on it over here, pros and cons, have now shifted their focus to the Senate, where they'll continue, well, the making of sausage.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, now, we were talking just before we started taping the show that in the relatively short time that you've been here, since 2008, that you've risen to 33rd in seniority, and there's a great deal of turnover. Every election time, maybe almost 10 new people coming in this past year 11.
Yes, and that's been very amazing to me, because I've been here 8 years. This is my 9th session. I started out as number 91, and like you said, I'm now number 33. And that has just amazed me, the amount of turnover in the last 8 years. And, you know, I think, and I'm a baby boomer, so it looks as if we're passing the torch to the next generation. And right now we do have a lot of members of the House that are under 40 that, are beginning to take the reins of leadership and governance.
Yeah, a couple of millennials
Yes.
that are now serving in the House.
There are some there that I consider kids, because I have kids that are older than them.
Right, right.
So it's been amazing to watch the sea change.
Yes, yes. Well, now, and you work as a realtor in your job when you're
used
not
to.
here at the general.
Right.
It's kind of,
I've heard that old realtors don't really retire; they just get listless.
oh, yes, right.
So
Yeah.
I don't have my license. I let that go
Yeah.
because I'm actually a full-time delegate.
Yes. Well, Delegate Pogue, really appreciate your being on. Our folks getting acquainted with you, and if some of our viewers don't understand how you could be in a district that's only been represented by women in the history of the Commonwealth, they need to contact you or contact me, and we can tell them the story about the creation of the 96th district.
Very interesting.
But thank you so much for being on This Week in Richmond
Thank you for
today.
having me. I really appreciate it. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you.
This Week in Richmond is made possible in part by Dignity Memorial, caring for our communities with a network of funeral homes and cemeteries in Virginia and throughout North America. More information about Dignity Memorial's providers is online at dignitymemorial.com. The Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the voice of the Virginia business community. For jobs, the economy, and public health, Virginia Hospitals, our lifeline.
The Virginia Education Association, because a good education is good for everybody.
Additional support is provided by these sponsors. And by the members of Virginia's public television stations. Thank you.